Before I get into anything, I just have to mention that all of the footage you're going to see in this video is recorded before the official launch of the game, meaning before the Day 1 patch. So if you see any performance issues or technical issues, please remember that what you see is before then. Also of note, I'm writing this script before and just after the official launch of the game. I've put in about 31 hours into the game at the time of writing, and I have a good amount of thoughts on the game. I should also mention that this will be really spoiler heavy, so if you haven't played MK1 or don't want to know any of the details of the story, I recommend leaving this video and go watching the story cutscenes or playing the game. So, without further ado, let's get into Mortal Kombat 1. NetherRealm has had some issues with its storytelling throughout the years, particularly with its rebooted Mortal Kombat franchise. A major criticism of their handling of the new Mortal Kombat timeline established in MK9 was the handling of the changes to characters, killing ones off quickly to then bring them back as lame revenants, making Quan, Chi, and Shinnok go from heavy hitters to punching bags, and introducing new big bads to raise the stakes each time that just got even more powerful to the point of absurdity. All of that coming ahead with Mortal Kombat 11's story, which seems to be a tumultuous one for fans. As for myself, while I initially really enjoyed the story, its handling of some of its characters and temperament changes to others did make the story feel a bit odd. And with the release of MK11 Aftermath, that comes even more into a head with crazy time travel shenanigans and backstabbing and the ruin of Sindel. I'm saying a whole lot of hoopla to essentially say that I don't think MK11's overall story is awful, but its inclusions and overall convolutedness and changes to long-standing characters is rather annoying. So, with the end of Aftermath, it seemed a new timeline reset would be useful. And here we are, in Liu Kang's new era. There are things that are the same, and things that are different. My first thought when the gameplay reveal trailer came out was that things wouldn't be a whole lot different, but there'd be enough for it to be a marketable feature. But I was kind of wrong. Obviously, there are some character facets that stay true despite the origin changes for each character, like Bihan's plans for the Ling Kuei and Kuai Liang's want to keep tradition in the clan, but overall the changes made to the characters was welcome. In an unusual fashion for our NetherRealm Mortal Kombat, the characters actually stick to that. There aren't any drastic switches in the character and the story. It's decently coherent too, for a while. Before I get into the mess that is the last few chapters of this game's story mode, let's talk about the things I did like about the story, the changes of the old characters, and their relations with one another. Liu Kang no longer being the default protagonist of the story leaves plenty of room for new characters to take center stage, and so we get a brand new Raiden. And who is this Raiden? Well, he's basically Liu Kang, but with thunder powers. Yeah, as much as I liked his very country boy attitude, he is kind of boring as a protagonist for this story. I add quotations there because, well, as I'll talk more about him later, he kind of just disappears through the second half of the game story. But anyhow, the changes to the lore. A new timeline means new things can change. So for starters, let's mention this game's core quadrio. I already mentioned Raiden, but let's talk about Kung Lao, Kenshi, and Johnny Cage. Kung Lao still has his ego, but it doesn't overtake his character as being his primary characteristic. What we get with this Kung Lao is a more noticeable sense of humility. In the core gameplay with his intros, he's way more egotistical, but in the story, he is more respectable and actually has a couple of moments of being proud of Raiden, not so much belittling him or saying that he's better. Probably like the charismatic and egotistical Kung Lao more, but this change wasn't bad for me. I did like it. As for Kenshi, he's actually pretty close to what he used to be in terms of attitude, but his origin actually changed a lot. Instead of him being a telepath right out of the gate and being someone who goes after the Red Dragon, he instead is a man on the path of restoring his clan, similar to Hanzo Hasashi in that way, but not through vengeance. He wants the sword Sento, which Johnny Cage owns and knows the history of, to reunite his clan under his leadership and restore them. A different take on the character, but what keeps it good is his same level-headedness and dry wit with Johnny, which makes them effortlessly enjoyable to have together. Which leads us into Johnny. His Johnniness is seen all throughout the game in both story and gameplay, but where he's changed is in how real he feels. He's not the over-the-top movie star with no sense of reality that he once was. He's instead a failing movie star, suffering to find a way back into the mainstream, which in the process causes him to lose his wife and then meet Liu Kang. I'm very 50-50 on this new version of the character. I grew very attached to the character growth Johnny from MKX and MK11. Him being more mature in those games was nice to me, to see him be a good father and a good soldier. In this game, he hasn't had that growth, and so we get a really, well, immature Johnny at points. a special annoying mention going to his ability to stop the story entirely to make an Aliens reference.
Get away from her, you bitch. Excuse me? You know, the movie. Tiny girl, ginormous alien. Ripley!
Yeah, stuff like that was annoying. But he does have moments of genuine maturity revolving around Kenshi and their relationship. But otherwise, I wasn't the biggest fan of Johnny Cage in this game's story. At least, not all the time. As for the characters of the other realms, well, the Outworlders were fun. The Umgadi storyline with Lee May was interesting, and that new bit of world building for Outworld and its empire were nice additions. And on that note, Sindel and the royal princesses, Melina and Kitana, were welcome to be so fleshed out, minus Kitana. What has changed, however, is Sindel and Melina. It was genuinely awesome seeing the loving mother and firm ruler of Outworld that we were told she was in the old NetherRealm timeline, but never got a chance to see. And it was wonderful seeing Melina get so much screen time. The change from Tarkatans being a race to a disease that affects Edenians was an interesting change. It doesn't really change a whole lot in terms of the Tarkatans and how they're represented, but it does make Baraka a slightly more interesting character, especially with the backstory he gets. Reptile was really cool. Something this campaign does really well is take the more outlandish characters from MK's lore and make them chill-ass dudes. Reptile is just a dude with an ability that makes him an outcast, and the only thing he had was a family that Shang Tsung took away from him. Ashura was just kind of thrown in there. She's cool and makes a really strong first impression, but the characters really just stumble upon her, and like a D&D party, just let her in because she didn't kill them immediately. Alright, big spoilers here, but let's talk about Ermac. He's still created by the many souls of Outworld, but instead of being created by Shao Kahn, he's created by, other big spoiler, Quan Chi. And instead of being the souls of war victims in Outworld, he's created using the souls of the living forest, which contains the soul of King Jared. Thus, in some unexplained way, causes Jared's soul to take over the character, and now he's just King Jared, but looking like Ermac. He has the same powers too and everything. He's just Ermac now. There's about 50 to 70% of the story mode that, honestly, was pretty good, but then those last few chapters hit. Before I get into that, I want to talk a little bit about my general issues with the game's story and some nitpicks. There might be a few too many side characters and jobbers in this one. For example, after Quan Chi and his soul Nados are introduced, the story now introduces us to 5 new characters, all in one scene. Ermac notwithstanding, the 3D era representatives get zero to do here. Havoc gets one line about having alternate plans for he and Darius before Quan Chi shuts him the hell up to get back to the plot. Darius doesn't even get a word in. The entire story, we see him multiple times, and he doesn't ever say a word. Serena gets one line of dialogue, but that's it. I would have much rathered hearing any one of those characters get dialogue instead of whatever Megan Fox was paid to read. Seriously, she's awful in this game. Alright, cue the soundbite.
Don't I scare you in the least?
God, I think I owe Ronda Rousey an apology. The story has some pacing issues with characters just straight up dropping out of the story for long stretches of time. Raiden is the protagonist from chapter 1 to 3, and then pieces out until chapter 8, and by then he barely gets any screen time when he's supposed to be Earthrealm's champion. Instead, we get a lot of random focus, with a large part of it being on the Brady Bunch over there. In fairness, when it does change focus, it does make sure that we play as characters that are important to that conflict or situation. It is balanced in that way, but really it's just more so about how long we spend with the Liu Kang espionage crew that makes the story, in my opinion, feel a bit odd in the pacing department. Also, let's talk about the villains. Reiko lacks any form of personality other than you don't know war, therefore you suck, and being Shao's lapdog. General Shao is this new era's Baraka. He exists in the story to be a filler fight. Him and Rain. Shit, I forgot about Rain. Oh yeah, and Tanya too. Do you need a filler fight? Well, throw in Rain or Tanya because they'll get the job done. Oh, and if you're following Quan Chi at all, throw in Nitara or Havoc just for good measure. Or just fight either Quan Chi or Shang Tsung because why not? We need to get 6 hours of playtime somehow. All of these characters are just jobbers who aren't threatening and aren't tough to fight. Even in the story, they're lame. Shao is the great general who literally says,
"That's a notable list of accomplishments, General."
It is a mere fraction of them. A full recitation would take days.
and then you do this to him. None of it was as bad as this game's final boss, which is an absolute joke.
It hit me. Fuck you. Shinnok was alright.
Yeah, Shinnok was not fun to fight as fast.
No, but he worked, you know? He was functional. He was...
That was easy.
That's it?
Which, okay, let's stop beating around the bush. MK1 is a multiverse story. Yeah, all that mystery of who is Shang Tsung's benefactor and what is their plan gets utterly thrown out in what's honestly a pretty neat reveal, with the twist of MK11's bad ending being canon, and with Titan Shang Tsung from that ending being another coexisting timeline. And when learning of Liu Kang's timeline's existence, he just wants to initially merge it with his own, but then says fuck it. I forgot how much I hated this dude, and just decides to destroy it altogether. It's really cool shock value and does thankfully rid this game of Chronica, but after the shock and awe of MK11 Sindel and Raiden showing up, and Sindel recreating her annoyingly iconic MK9 scene, the story loses all focus and just goes into multiverse shenanigans with characters fighting dark versions of themselves and an entire recreation of MK Armageddon, with tons and tons of variations of the characters we've seen in the game. Gets a bit messy in the end there for me, and gets really over-convoluted and big, and the explanation of the battle with Chronica causing enough magic bullshit to create multiple timelines and occurrences was kind of a lame way to rationalize Invasions mode and kill off a whole bunch of iconic characters with no consequences because, oh, they're just alternate universe versions of themselves, it's fine. But aren't they all supposed to be Titans and Keepers of Time? What are the ramifications of losing a Keeper of Time randomly? Titans can't come back either, according to this game, so damn, I guess there goes Katana. There goes Johnny Cage. There goes Shang Tsung. There goes Jax, I guess? Sonya Kano? This is hurting my head. For me, it was just too much all at once. A neat concept and fun execution, with the final chapter being a choose-your-own adventure where you fight a series of randomized variations of fighters. Overall, I did enjoy this game's story mode. It's a fun new take on the classic characters and has a decent enough plot, but gets a bit too messy in the finale for my tastes. Still has the insanely high production value that NetherRealm has continued to bring. This section will most likely be a lot smaller than the others, as I just don't have a whole lot to say about the gameplay of Mortal Kombat 1, so MK1 had things to accomplish. Couldn't be MK11 again. It needed to do something different, and different they did. NetherRealm made a fast, fun, and engaging fighting game. With the new movement options, air combos, and interesting cameo system, NetherRealm found a way to make the game fresh and exciting, while also making it fun to just figure out stuff with your characters. In this game, I decided to try out Smoke, since he was one of the characters I was most excited about seeing return. I found some stuff I liked with him, and ended up finding some combos that worked. Predictable to anyone with a brain, but my lizard brain liked seeing over 30% damage I was doing. But it says something that I'm not only thinking of just playing Smoke with the Frost cameo. I'm genuinely considering learning other characters and cameos. I have my eyes currently on Sub-Zero or Li Mei, since both characters have some fun strings, and in Sub-Zero's case, has a fun launcher that I can work with and set up for some combos. And I don't even know what I'm going to do for cameos. Yeah, this game just has a lot. Characters have way more things that they can do, and the cameo system allows for a lot more creativity and player expression. It doesn't mean that people aren't going to find the go-tos. Right now it seems that Serena is a very good cameo, and Reptile is going quite crazy online. But that's something that I suspected would happen. Right now it's not really an issue, but in a few months we'll see how we feel about that. The game is just really good from a core gameplay perspective, but with this being a fighting game, that means that balance patches and changes to the characters will come. The true mark of this game will be how fun it is in 2 years, when NetherRealm have long stopped supporting it and no more patches are coming out. But for now, I very much enjoy its gameplay. Online is as to be expected. I haven't played much of it, so I can't say so much as to how good the connection is, but I've seen some good and bad connection, so mileage may vary. Instead of the Krypt, NetherRealm introduces us to Invasions mode, a board game-like adventure mode with tons of fights and RPG elements to mess around with. You can go in with any character and cameo you like and explore the maps, unlock its little secrets, and if you get through it all, finish the season by fighting Scorpion. This mode will be the game's main live service feature, replacing the Living Towers from MK11. I have mixed opinions on this mode, as I enjoy some aspects of it, mainly the exploring and backtracking for new areas, but I don't really enjoy some of the more mundane aspects of it. Fighting the same characters over and over again with little variation gets really boring and repetitive, and the little things they do to spice them up is downright annoying. Take, for example, the first mesa of Invasion mode after the tutorial. Feng Jian, The little magic nullification debuffs and movement reduction debuffs got on my nerves. That particular boss fight with Katana at the end was annoying as all hell, and that isn't exclusive to just Fengjian. Throughout the 7 main mesas you'll explore, all of them have these gimmicky battles in them. Some are worse than others though. With time, we'll see how this mode changes, and if any of it's fun after everything is said and done. That leads me into the game's seasonal content. Like MK11, the Combat League returns, providing special rewards for the players that grind through it and prove their skill. For other content, this game offers a separate menu to use the special coins you get in Invasions mode, and the various online modes to purchase special gear pieces and skins for all 23 characters that the game launches with. I haven't found it difficult to get the seasonal currency, as it's very decently spread out throughout Invasions mode, and you get a decent amount of it per fight online, so I don't foresee the grind for this stuff to be difficult. Things are decently priced as well, but it does seem like if you wanted to grind for everything in the season, it'll at the very least be time consuming. I do hope that with this seasonal model, the game does add a seasonal locker like the recent Call of Duties have had, where you can purchase old skins and gear pieces if you like. This does lead me to the game's premium currency. As far as I can tell, there is zero way to earn this currency by playing the game. It is all through in-game purchases. So with the game's premium shop, you must spend real-world money to buy certain skins. So if you want to buy the Dark Sindel skin from the story mode, that'll be $8. While the prices aren't egregious yet, I seriously hope that NetherRealm doesn't go overboard with this. Speaking of skins and gear, let's quickly talk about the customization options in the game. They're surprisingly lackluster. Each character gets 1 gear piece that they can change, skin changes, and taunts and finishers. That's it. And the cameos only get skins. Compared to Injustice 2 and MK11's customization, that is a genuine disappointment and a serious lack of content for what NetherRealm usually puts out. Their games have always been worth the asking price from content alone. This game is different. While the Invasions mode is neat and has a lot of things to do, I'm sure you could blast through it in one sitting if you really wanted to. And since there's no Krypt, the only way to earn the various forms of extras the game can give you is through the Dragon Shrine, which is just a slot machine that you spend 1,000 dragon coins on to get a single piece of randomized content. Whether that be concept art, music, or an actual gear piece or skin, it's all up to RNG. It's not fun. At least give me the option to skip the little cutscene that plays if you're going to force me to buy one thing at a time. It feels like there isn't a whole lot to do in the game outside of the invasion mode and online. I don't know what NetherRealm's plans are for content traps in this game, but I hope it's better than just a new invasion season every couple months. Overall, I think MK1 is a really good fighting game. The mechanics are fun and deep, despite some bugs going around right now, and the story is good and has a really high production value. And of course, the game just looks really good. It is a next-gen game after all. But with its lack of content, surprisingly odd performance on PC, and questionable invasions mode, I cannot recommend the game at its current price point. If you're dying to play it, wait for a sale. It's not worth it right now, especially not on PC. I'm going to rate Mortal Kombat 1 a 7.5 out of 10. Well, those are my thoughts on MK1. If you like the review and want to see more in-depth game reviews like this, let us know in the comments. In terms of the future, definitely expect Ernest and I to do a proper section on Spider-Man 2. We just cannot wait for that game. Might do a normal section here and there in the meantime, but I cannot commit to anything right now other than Spider-Man 2. Well, thanks and be well.